Welcome to the Unreligious Podcast, where we spread the love of Jesus without judgment or bylaws, focusing solely on Christ and the Bible. I'm Chris,
And I'm Drew.
and we are glad you're here, buddy. It seems like a long time since we've done this.
I know, right? It's been so long. I mean, let me tell you.
Yeah, a whole what, 48 hours?
Yeah, to give you guys a little peripheral behind the curtain. Yeah, we try to record these 2 weeks out because our schedules sometimes don't quite sync up. But we lost our 2 week buffer, so we're slowly trying to get that back. So we're actually recording these 2 days apart. That's a little behind the scenes there, but yeah, no, it's been so long.
Yeah,
Yeah.
man. Yeah. So, yeah, we got I just wanted to tell you, if you don't mind, we definitely need some prayers here on the island. Audrey and I were watching today, and one of the parishes is called Lagoa, which is down by the city capital, Ponta Delgada, and I guess the whole city's about on blaze right now. It's all fire.
Oh wow, dude, that's rough. Cause like, you know, obviously we've got what's going on in California. Do they typically get um do they typically get fires like that or
No, not typically. From what I could read, it's really hard to understand when you translate from Portuguese to English. It sounds really weird, but from what I could read, it broke out in an engine room of some kind. And now it's like starting to engulf the whole city. And wouldn't you know it, just like California, the Santa Ana winds, dude, our winds are starting to pick up tonight. They're going to be gusting 30-mile-an-hour winds.
man?
So we're just praying that they get that contained and it doesn't start consuming a lot of the island. And they've already evacuated everybody out of the town of Lagoa. And then China, dude, there's a huge fire going on in China right now.
I'm I'm adding to the end of the notes, prayer requests. Um,
Yeah, yeah, man. So we just
yeah,
need to pray that
man.
the Lord be with those firefighters and they get that contained. I guess they've called every fire department from every city or every parish here on the island.
Yeah, I guess it's a good moment just to kind of I guess throw it in there. But a lot of times when these things happen, the Bible talks about the end times, and it talks about um, you know there'll be floods in diverse places, signs in the stars, and it talks about a lot of things. I don't personally think that God is like sitting up in heaven with a magnifying glass,
No.
zapping people and causing these things. But I think that, I think the Bible has predicted a lot of this stuff. And I think that I don't necessarily think that God is causing it, but I think the Bible just predicted that they're happening. And so I think that, when stuff like this happens, I think it's just yet another reminder. The Bible talks about there being a great spiritual awakening and then a great falling away, which we've talked about. I think it's kind of funny when, you know, atheists and these deconstructionists on the internet talk about, oh, we're leading people away from Jesus. But I'm like, really, you're just proving the Bible to be more accurate. But, when things like these happen, a lot of times people think, well, how could a loving God do this? Or, I don't know that he's necessarily sitting back doing this, causing, whatever you want to call it. I think the Bible just, predicted that it would happen. And I think it's just a reminder that, this earth is not our final resting place. Our treasure's in heaven and it's only temporary. But a lot of times this causes people to kind of question, and it can be very confusing and very perilous for some,
Yeah,
so
I
but
mean,
you know,
on the bright side, all the comments I read underneath the post about these fires, they're all over on Facebook, the people we follow. But on the bright side, it's like every single comment underneath there is God protect us, God be with the firefighters, God be with the people of Lagoa. You know what I mean? So there's a lot of prayers going out. God's hearing them. I know that. It's just for me, it's amazing. Instead of oh, how bad is the fire, or how many buildings is it consumed, or who's involved, it was more everybody just saying, praying protection over everybody. So yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Well,
Well,
how's your week? Well, day or two.
well, I mean, it's been, I had kind of a God moment yesterday. For us, we've really been struggling financially. It's just with inflation and, everything that's going on with just everybody's struggling financially. But then coming into Christmas, my wife's grandmother passed away just not too long before Christmas, and she was kind of the primary gift. She would make things, she would find deals on the internet, but like 50% of like all of our gifts basically come from her. And so we were trying to make up the ground, get Christmas gifts and all that. And so really we're kind of limping into my tax return, but like God's providing, bills are getting paid. Some of them are a little behind, but but we're making it. But I had this weird thing where, and it was just communication breakdown between me and my wife, but somehow we missed like a week of saving money for rent. And so it come up time to pay rent. Well, I had to pay like $660 towards rent. And I I paid that. Obviously, that was a huge chunk of my paycheck. And and I paid it, and I'm like, well, constrict. It's gonna be top. Brace for impact. And sent that off and got a couple groceries. We ended up hitting the blessing box in my town, which is, if you guys don't know what that is, if there's not one, might not be a bad idea to start one. But people will put like rice roni and hamburger helper and just like different groceries and stuff. Which we always grab what we feel like we need, not we try to not overdo it. Now just I mean, I think God did this for me. A good old boy in my town, somebody, praise God, left like a pound of deer meat. And so we made the best deer chili I've had my entire life.
Wow.
um, but anyways, we hit the blessing box, made, did what we could. And I'm like, dude, well, I thought I had filled my tank up on Friday when I got paid. Went to go to work on Monday, and I'm like, oh, dude, I don't have enough gas for the week. And so, as a grown man, whatever day this was, I'm like driving to work. I'm like, dude, I might have to ask my dad for money or something. I don't know what I'm going to do. And I was kind of just talking to God, and I'm like, dude, I don't know what I'm going to do. And in this kind of conversation, I get to work and I go to check my bank account, like, well, let me just see if maybe there's some money somewhere. Well, some people would say it's a coincidence and God works in mysterious ways, but I looked and I had 600 and something dollars back. And my first thought was, oh crap, dude, rent didn't go through. So I go to my PayPal because we paid some in cash and I sent the rest through PayPal because it was like the day I got paid, just try to make sure my landlord got it. And my PayPal shows it went through, but my bank shows that it didn't. And so I messaged him. I said, "Hey, did you get rent? Because like my PayPal showing it went through, my bank account saying it didn't. I just double checking." And he said, "No, I got it. We're good. Blah blah blah." And so I don't know if it might be in the process of coming back to PayPal. Maybe he looked wrong. I'm waiting on that money to pop back up somewhere, but I'm like, God, I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know how I'm going to get gas. Like I'm scrambling. And then mysteriously enough, and maybe it's a glitch in the system and God just sent me $600 back. I don't know. We'll see what happens. But in that moment, I'm like, well, I now have money for gas. And I pulled like 20 bucks out just to budget for the week for like breakfast and food and small stuff. But, in that moment, I'm like, God, it people will say that's a coincidence, but
Mhm.
dude, for me in that moment, I'm like, I didn't know what I was gonna do for gas. Money came back. My landlord says it's good. So, and who knows? Like I said, maybe it's a glitch and that $600 came back. I'm still gonna be like for like the next 2, 3 months, like waiting on. my landlord or somebody, PayPal to say, whatever. But that buys me time to save up and move some stuff around and make it happen. So that was a
Yeah, go
weird God
God,
moment.
man.
Yeah,
I
that
don't
was a weird.
believe
Yeah.
I don't believe in coincidences, man. I believe that when you're pouring your heart out to God and he knows you're in a bad way, he always provides. He always comes through, man. If people call it coincidence or luck or whatever, I call it God. It's just there's
Well,
too many coincidences.
yeah. Well, and so I'm not going to say the guy's name on here because I work with him. So we'll just affectionately call him the snack man. But I've told you about this before. But again, we're tight on money. We don't have a lot of groceries. We didn't have enough money for like Coke Zeros, which is a luxury. But and so all week we've just been scraping by. Well, there's a guy that I work with. He's like buddies with, like I don't know if it's bread route or whatever, but somehow he's got snacks. Well, just from time to time, this guy will, and I don't get to talk to him as much as I want. And I've never told him or got the chance to tell him how much of a God thing it is, but just randomly, he'll just leave me a box of snacks at work. And
Mm.
so I got up to one of our facilities today and, I came in, walked through, looked, and there's a big old box of snacks. Now it's, Lay's, chips, and Doritos and stuff that, RFK wouldn't approve of. But I didn't have enough money for groceries and snacks. My lunches have been kind of short this week. God will provide. And every time this guy gives me a box of snacks, and it's so random. I might get 2 boxes in 2 months, I might get 2 boxes in 7 months. It's just totally random, but every time I get this box of snacks from the snack man, it's always when I need it the most. And again,
Mhm.
I think that that's God just basically saying, "Hey, dude, look, is it a necessity to have Doritos? No, but is it something you enjoy? Here you go." And, God works in mysterious ways, man.
Yeah, he does for sure.
So,
So what do you think? You want to get into tonight's topic? I'm excited about it.
how was your week?
Well, other than the fires, that's kind of scary because we are on an island, and if
Yeah.
they start spreading, granted, it's on the very farthest corner of the island from us, but I mean, it's not like it's a huge island. So I just, it's kind of scary. Other than that, we're gearing up, man. We're starting. I woke up this morning.
To a quiet house.
Yes, quiet house. I woke up this morning and I went downstairs, and my wife had already gotten out of bed, and we had this crate, a wooden crate made out of 2x4s and plywood. And my wife had ordered me back in Tennessee a man cave sign for my birthday one year. And it was like a bull head with the horns and everything in neon. It was all neon and it said man cave underneath it in neon. And she special ordered it for me from a guy in Texas who handmade it for me. Well,
Mm,
we brought that over in that crate. Well, we didn't have a coffee table. Like I told you, we had a couch and a chair and a desk. That's all we have in this house. And we didn't have a coffee table. And I kept kicking drinks over that I was setting on the floor.
I remember
And
you telling me about this.
yeah,
Yeah.
so what I did is I went out and I got one half of this thing, which it's probably, I'd say it's 3 foot by 3 foot. So it's pretty good size. And I set it on top of a couple of ottomans, and that's been our coffee table. Well,
Right.
I go downstairs and I'm looking around and well, the coffee table's gone. And I'm like, and I look over and my wife has got all of our pictures off the
This
wall,
crate with all the foam
wrapped
from
up in this
the
big
man cave sign,
blanket.
and
She's
she's
got
got
it
them in.
already. All I had to do was screw it all together. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And close it up. And so dude, this evening she was just packing and packing and packing. So we're gearing up, dude. We're gearing up. We're ready to come home. We're gonna be heading out of here in 2 weeks, man. We leave on the 28th. We fly into Chicago on the 29th.
Dude, that's I know you guys are excited, and I mean, I'm kinda excited for us to be closer to time zones, so
Oh, dude, you have no idea. I'll be able to be done and relax at 8 o'clock in the evening. Right now, it's like 1:30. Sometimes if we go far, go get to talking after the podcast, it's 2 o'clock in the morning before I go to
yeah.
bed. So yeah, I'm pumped, man. I can't wait, and it's we've got a lot of people that are rooting for us. My mom and my sister, like I said, it's quiet now, but I gotta admit, dude, when you have your mom staying with you, it was nice, dude, because I go downstairs, the coffee's already made,
Mhm.
the kitchen's cleaned up. My sister would clean the house and sweep and wash walls down and stuff, and they all left, and I'm like, "Oh, okay, well,
What
I guess it's
happened?
well, what happened? I guess it's back to, my routine now. I'm on my own
Yeah.
again." So but yeah, I mean, it's good, dude. We're chomping at the bit. We're nervous. It's nerve-wracking. We've got the vet that's gotta come because our dogs have to have passports now, and we have to fly from here to Lisbon, the mainland Portugal, which is gonna be about a 3-hour flight. We have a 2.5-hour layover, and then it's a 9.5-hour flight to Chicago. So it's going to be a long day, especially for our dogs, dude, because we're not going to see them once we put them on the plane here. That 2.5-hour layover. So I told my wife we better get some baby wipes or wet wipes or whatever we got to get because when they get out of those crates in Chicago, there's chances are they're going to be a little messy.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be it could definitely get interesting. Sorry, I was still
Yeah.
listening. I just
No, no, you're good. Yeah, so we're our nerves are on edge. We're chomping at the bit, but we're really, we got those pre-travel jitters. But I know God's got us. I know we're going to be good. We pray every night that He just helps us with this to be a smooth transition, no issues. My mom and my sister, we prayed and prayed and prayed for the week before they left, and then I prayed with them at the airport before they went into security and they said they had the best trip ever. So,
dude, that's awesome.
yeah.
Well, speaking of being excited, nervous, chomping at the bit, me and Chris are both really excited uh and slightly nervous about tonight's episode because I mean, we're talking about anger. And I
Mhm.
think that that's something that a lot of, especially men, struggle with, but a lot of Christians, a lot of people struggle with. Um, and I know for me, this episode's really going to hit home, which, we'll get into here in a minute. But you know, anger is a universal emotion. It's one that we've all experienced. In today's episode, we're going to dive into what anger is, how it affects our lives and our relationships, what the Bible says about managing it. And we're going to explore some frustrations, some consequences, how it impacts our relationships with God, others. We're going to look at some scripture to illustrate how it can be um, both destructive and at times redemptive. I mean, there is such thing as righteous anger, but we're going to try to explore a couple different angles about it. We want to say thank you to everybody that's listened. Thank you for all the likes, subscribes, follows. If you hadn't liked, subscribe, follow us, please do so. If you have any questions or comments, obviously you can comment on our social medias, send us an email at the unreligiouspodcast@gmail.com. Um, we do have a YouTube channel. Check that out. I'm going to try to leave a link to that in the notes. And then we also now have an Instagram. We do have Facebook as well. I'm going to leave
Yay.
yeah, we're coming along. I'm going to leave a link to the Instagram as well. I don't have, I'll try to remember to put a link of Facebook, but so, the question is, what is anger? Anger is a passionate response to a perceived wrong or injustice. While it's a natural emotion, anger left unchecked can cause significant harm, not just ourselves, but also to the relationships and spiritual lives. And another thing I didn't add in the notes necessarily is, it can hurt your witness, man. And, opening thoughts on anger.
Man, anger has caused me a lot of trouble in my life, I can tell you that. It is one of those things that I struggle with, and I always have. I don't know why. It's just my personality or whatever. It's one of them things, Drew, that it's really hard to stay on top of and try to keep yourself down. You know what I mean? When you feel that anger boiling up, it's really hard to shove it back down because you just want to explode. You know what I mean? And so for me, I'll get into some stuff, but yeah, anger for me is a tough one. It's really, really, it's almost, I don't want to say it's an addiction like we talked about in the last episode, but it could be, it's not even a pet sin, something that I want to do, but it's one of those things where I have a hard time controlling it. What about you?
So I had a like Chris said an episode or two back, not necessarily be careful what you pray for, but think about what you're going to pray for because God will do it. I prayed, and I've talked about this on the podcast, but I prayed a while back. God, if there's men in my life that I know that's around me, nearby me, whatever, that I can pour into or that they can pour into me, send them my way. Like I'm open, I'm willing, I'm whatever. And I had another person from my past that I crossed paths with today. I just out of the blue. And as soon as he messaged me, I was like, I already feel like I know that this is a God thing. And so we were chit chatting, and he was basically like, "Hey, are you not still working it?" Because me and Chris worked with this guy. I'm not going to say his name because, um, you know, but we both worked with him, and he shot me a message, the place that me and Chris used to work at, and he said, "Hey, I heard that you're not over there anymore. Is that true?" And I'm like, "Yeah, no." And so we were kind of talking, reminiscing, whatever. And then I basically shot him a message, and I was like, "Hey, dude, I'm about to start driving again. If you want to call me, you can." And then we ended up having like an awesome 2 hour conversation to God. But we got to talking about anger, and this is why it's so important. Like Chris said, I think we've got reels on Facebook where Chris was talking about this about it's so important to root yourself into a community, a church, a gathering, group, whatever of like minded believers that you can pour into and they can pour into you. But one we got to talking about like men and why men's ministry often fails, where churches miss the mark, et cetera, et cetera. And we got to talking about anger. And dude, he said something, and I'm gonna probably butcher this, but I'm gonna do the best I can. But we got to talking about just how men are men and how we get angry. And this is not a He-Man episode by any means, but he was basically talking about how when we are in a situation, because he basically the question that he kind of asked was like, why is it that we get the most angry at the people we care about the most? And I was like, that's a very good question. And what he was saying is he's seen some video somewhere. If you guys know what video or podcast or wherever it came from, feel free to comment or send it to us. But he basically said that this guy was talking about how often when we get angry at the people we care about the most, usually it's out of helplessness or we're overextended, we're frustrated, or we're just, basically like at our wits end and we're just completely over I don't know what the word is. I'm not overstimulated, but we're basically just like we're at our wits end. And he said that and please don't take this the wrong way, listeners, but he basically said when women get over um just over exhausted, over when they're at their wits end, they typically will become emotional and then a lot of times cry. Overwhelmed, I think is the word he used.
Mm,
When they
yep.
become overwhelmed, they will physically and emotionally like break down and cry. And he said, we as men, we get angry at the ones we love the most when we're overwhelmed and feeling helpless. And he said, anger is how men cry. And I was just like, dude, that is so true because as a guy, how many times have you been just you're sitting there and you're just mad and you're so mad. You're like, dude, why am I this mad? I don't understand why I'm this mad. And you're like in your head, you're like, dude, I can't comprehend why I'm getting so mad. And it's like you're mad at something small that doesn't mean anything. And like I know for me, like a lot of times, like my wife will be like, well, like, why are you mad? Like, like she's looking at the thing that I'm mad at, but the root issue is there's something deeper. I I'm completely helpless with my finances, or, I have 6 bosses that rode me all day long, or, somebody at work says something bad about you or whatever. There's always a circumstance that has absolutely nothing to do with what you're mad at in that moment. But he said, "Anger is how men cry." And I was like, "Dude, that is
That's
so true."
so
And
true.
it's
It's one of those things, Drew, where I've heard a lot of people say this. I've heard counselors say it. I've heard everyday people say that anger is actually a secondary emotion. That there's something that causes the anger. That when you're angry, that it's not because you want to be angry. There's a root cause there. There's something there that's causing your emotions to stir up that you don't like, and you mask it with anger. Like you said,
yeah.
men get angry instead of crying. You know, women, I've seen women angry. I've seen my wife angry. I don't care to see that again. You know what I mean? And they get angry, but I think you're right. And I hope, the women out there listening don't think this is some kind of a, okay, this podcast is just for men. Um, but like, men have a tendency when we get to that point where we're broken, we throw things, we cuss. I can't tell you how many walls I've patched that I put my fist through. You know what I mean? And I think that that's just the way we deal with raw emotion that we don't know any other way to deal with.
Well, we're conditioned from an early age, and again, like, please, ladies, don't hear what we're not saying. One thing that women do better than men is they're able to communicate how they're feeling and talk it and use words, and they're able to, with their words, explain and vent what is going on, which is, I think, why in a lot of cases they're able to be emotional, cry, and have kind of like this outward release. Whereas, like, with guys, dude, we're conditioned from an early age. Oh, it's fine. Throw some salt on it. Or, oh, well, not throw some salt, throw some dirt on it. "Ah, you're fine.
Rub
Get up.
some dirt in it.
Don't cry." And it's like, we as men are basically taught to, like, if you have feelings or something, that's like somehow, like, quote unquote feminine or not manly or whatever. And at an early age, you know, we're kind of taught or instilled in us, like, basically don't talk about it, just whatever. And we bottle things up. And in a lot of cases, like I said, you know, we're not, we don't know how to, like, express why we're mad, because we think that somehow that, like, makes us weak or whatever. And I think that another thing that, like, women do better is they know how to vent and talk. And a lot of times they just want to talk through it and just vocalize it to get it out of their system. And us as guys, and it drives my wife crazy, I drive my wife crazy, we drive each other crazy, because when she's venting, I as a man want to, we're all about solutions and problem solving and fixing and resolution. Like, when you're venting to me, then I'm like, okay, well, how can I fix this? How can I? And a lot of times she's just telling me how she feels, but I go into, like, guy mode of, like, oh, well, I'll fix it. Let me get the duct tape,
Hmm.
whatever. And where we as guys, that makes so much sense, because it's like, dude, oftentimes when I get the maddest, I'm reacting without speaking. I'm breaking stuff, or I'm throwing something or whatever. And my wife doesn't necessarily understand that always, because she's like, why are you getting so mad? Why did you just do that? And like you said, there's a root issue that's separate, but because we don't know how to, like, communicate with our words, we just react. And so, like, for me, I'll throw something. Maybe not so much now, but, like, typically we as guys will throw something, break something, we'll yell, scream, like Chris said, we'll cuss or whatever, and then we go off, decompress, and we think through it. We don't vocalize it, we think through it. And then after we're able to think through it, then I'm able to come back and say, "Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm so and it's always, I'm so frustrated. I'm so overwhelmed, with whatever it is. I'm always so frustrated that I reacted like this. And it's just, I think a lot of it is conditioning. And again, not having small groups, Bible studies, church, whatever, to get this stuff out. Um, and I think that that's something that a lot of men are searching for is, and I hear it over and over and over again. The more guys I talk to, the more it's always like, dude, I thought I was the only one that thought that, or I thought I was the only one that felt that, or I've never really, like, and it's always like, I thought I was the only one. Or when you say something, it's like, dude, I've never thought about it like that. And it's just, we just don't talk.
Yeah, I think you're spot on. I'm gonna go out on be a little vulnerable here. Quite a while ago, probably I don't know, 20 years ago, I read that book, Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus, because the woman I was with at the time handed it to me and told me you need to read this. And dude, it says in there that men have this cave, so to speak, in the back of their mind. When they get mad, when they get irritated, whatever the cause is, we like to go into our cave and just leave us alone. I don't want to be talked to. I don't want to be explained to. I just want to be alone. I want to be able to work through it. Women, on the other hand, they like to talk about everything. And I, it's one of those where I don't know if you've ever had it happen to you, Drew, but I've had my wife when I'm just like fuming grab me by the shoulders, look me in the eye with sincerity, and say, "What's really going on with you? This isn't you. You're not. What's going on? You're not mad at me. Why are you take whatever's going on? You're taking it out on me, and you're not mad at me. What is the problem?" And she'll dig and she'll try to get me to examine myself and figure out what it is. And a lot of times I'm like, just let me go in my cave. I don't want you to
Yeah.
fix it. And then on the reverse to that, there have been times when my wife has been angry but emotional at the same time and verbalizing, and I do exactly like you said. I'm like, "Oh, I gotta fix this," and I start offering this and that. "Oh, well, have you thought about this? Well, hey, can we do that? Well, what'll make you feel better?" And dude, there's been more times than I can count where my wife has looked at me and said, "I just want you to hold me and listen to me and tell me everything's gonna be all right."
Yeah.
You know? So it's polar opposites. Women wanna talk about it. They wanna get that emotion out. They want somebody to confide in. They don't want you to answer them. They just want you to listen. Whereas men, we don't want you to listen. We don't wanna talk to you. We just wanna go in our cave, and we wanna start throwing things, and we wanna get our anger out of the way so we can get to the problem and what really
Yeah.
caused that anger.
I think, like you said, I mean, I think you nailed it. But I think you nailed it. Like, as men, and so I'm gonna talk to the ladies for a second, then I'll switch it. But like, as men, like ladies, 9 times out of 10, if you'll just let us have our moment and go off and just decompress, whatever, if you'll just give us that space and have a little buffer, don't come out, what's wrong? What's wrong? Because like, we don't want to talk about it, because in our anger, and I think I might have used this analogy on the podcast before, but somebody said one time that, if you have a boiling pot of water and you stand and look over that pot, you're not going to be able to look and see your reflection because the
Mm,
water is boiling. So
mm,
you have to allow that water to simmer and then calm, because out of that calmness, you can see clarity to be able to reflect, right? And as guys, when that water's boiling, we're not thinking straight. Like, we have to calm down, mellow out, go have our moment, decompress, and think through, again, problem solving. We'll solve the problem and think through it in our heads. And 9 times out of 10, we will come back to you and say, look, I'm sorry. I shouldn't, or we should say, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have reacted like that. I'm going through this, and then we will talk about it after we've calmed, but we can't talk about it while we're mad. And 9 times out of 10, if ladies, if you will just let us go have our moment, decompress, come back with our tail tucked between our legs, then we're more likely to be able to talk. But if we're still calming down, like Chris said, just walk up, hug us, say, "I love you. I'm sorry." "I love you. It's okay." You know, "Do you want a snack?"
Yeah,
"Hey, are
"Hey,
you
look,
like,
I don't know what's going on with you right now, but I'm gonna back off. I'm gonna let you cool down, and you come talk to me when you're ready, and I'm here."
yeah,
That's like that would be the perfect thing to
yeah,
do, and that's the other thing is, I think it's what degree all of us, men and women, what degree we allow that anger to get to. Like you said, do we
yeah,
allow it to get to that boiling point? Because I know for me, in my past, before I was really walking with Christ, I would get so angry that I would go out and intentionally go to the bar and look for a fight. Like the
yeah,
first guy that looked cross-eyed at me, I'm in their face. You know what I mean? Just so I could get that aggression out. And
yeah,
with with walking with Christ, I don't want to go fight with somebody, but I still get to that boiling point where I just need to be left alone for a while. I need to work through it. I need to pray about it. I need to see where I'm at. So I think that as far as getting angry goes, there's so many different levels of that anger, but no matter what level you're at, there's always something behind it that brought you to that. You know what I
yeah,
mean? And for us men, it takes us a little while to figure out what it was that really got us going and what really irritated us before we can actually deal with it mentally.
yeah. And I mean, one thing that women are phenomenal at is, I mean, they're nurturers, and like I said, just, "Hey, I love you. Um, I understand you're upset. Just take some time. I'm going to leave you alone. If you want to talk about it, I'm here, just whenever you're ready." That goes so far. And like I'm telling you, you know, I mean, it sounds so stupid, but if I go decompress and I come back and it could be something as simple as like, you know, making a sandwich, bag of chips. "Hey, if I like cherry Coke Zero, whatever, like, hey, I grabbed you a cherry Coke," whatever, something so simple. If I'm sitting there eating a sandwich, it's hard for me to be that upset. But like on the flip side of that, talking to the guys, again, I think ladies, a lot of times they want to just vent and talk it out. And the where we are terrible as guys is we don't actually listen. And the biggest thing I think for men is we want to be respected, loved, and appreciated. We want, you know, to be acknowledged, like, "You work so hard for this family. You do so much for us. You don't deserve how your boss treated you, whatever." We just want to be like respected, validated, noticed, whatever. And I think a lot of times women just want to be heard. And from our standpoint, one thing, and I'm still not good at it, but I try to be better at, is when my wife is venting, I try to just listen. And again, I need to be so much. I'm really not that good at it. I'm trying to be better at it. But if we will just listen and let them get all the emotional stuff out and vent and talk, I think for us, it's as simple as, "Well, is there anything I can do to help?" And in that moment, either yes, there will be, or no, I just really, and then, you know, a lot of times I think that, women will just say, "No, I'm just really upset and it bothered me." And then at that moment, it's like, okay, so there's not a problem for me to fix. I just need to listen. And one thing that I'm terrible about, including anger, is I wake up, I go to work, and right off the bat, there's a godly man that I talk to every morning, and we just communicate, pour into. I usually call him about 7-ish. I talk to him till about 8:30 or 9-ish, and then my second buddy, usually we talk, and then somewhere in between there, there's other conversations, and I'm always trying to lift others up. I'm trying to be a good Christian example at work. I'm trying to be a light. I'm trying to so throughout my day, I'm like trying to be patient, trying to be this, that, whatever, and it's like on and on and on. Um all my energy is going towards trying to be a good employee, trying to be a good example, trying to be this, trying to be that, trying to read my Bible, trying to listen to podcasts, trying to listen to praise and worship and do all this stuff. And by the time I get home, I'm so exhausted that the goal was to get through the door. But then by the time I come home, I've got no patience left. I've got no anything left. And because I drive for a living, I'm not on my phone much. So I'm terrible about when I come in and sit down, I want to put my nose in my phone and like, oh, let me see what happened here. Oh, let me check in on the sports. And, it's like all this stuff. And it's like, I'm just sitting there scrolling Facebook because I've not got to do that all day. And my wife, who has not got to talk to me much, see me much, whatever, she just wants to spend time and talk with me. And I'm so exhausted that I'm like, and I think for most of us guys, if we can just have 15 to 30 minutes when we come home to decompress, that goes a long way. But I'm terrible about, I'm trying so hard to be a light and example to everybody else that when I come home, I've got no energy or patience left. And I've got no you know, I want to put my nose in my phone and just be left alone. And that's the people that mean the most. My daughter's wanting to play Yahtzee. Even my 7-month old is like clapping and looking and smiling and giggling because she wants me to hold her. And then my daughter's trying to tell me about her day. My newborn is trying to connect with me. My wife wants to talk to me. And it's like, dude, I've got like an hour or two before I go to bed. And in those moments, I think is where I really struggle and I get angry and frustrated. And it's the people that I care about the most. And that's why when my buddy told me that today about anger is how we cry, I'm like, dude, that is so impactful because I am terrible about it. This is one thing that, and I'm struggling with dipping again. That's something, y'all pray for me on that because I'm really struggling, but I cut cussing out. I don't drink anymore. I quit watching porn. I quit doing all these things. And it's easy to focus on things that I'm good at, but I'm still struggling in something that's so impactful because 10 years from now, I don't want my daughter to think back to, oh, dad was always mad when he come home. And
Yeah.
it's so important and it's something that I've got to try to get better about.
Yeah, dude, let me give you a little tip on that. Being an older guy who has pretty much raised all of his kids, all 6 of them, and they're all out of the house now. You know, when you go back and you talk to your adult kids about their childhood and they talk about how they were afraid to step out of line because of the way you would react, because of your anger, because of they just didn't want that wrath coming down on them. You know what I mean? That's guilt, dude. That puts guilt on me. I'm like, oh man, and I can't take that back. It's said and done. They see I'm a different person now. They respect me now because I'm their dad and I'm a different person. But back then, dude, I ruled with an iron fist. I really did. I mean, it wasn't child abuse or anything like that, but they knew not to backtalk me. If they backtalked me, they got popped in the mouth. I mean, it was, it could have been on the extreme side, and I can't take any of that back. But I wasn't walking with the Lord through all that, and I think that's the difference. And I was going to say, like, when my mom and sister were here just about a week ago, I lost my temper and I really hurt my sister. Um, I said some things that I should not have said, and I said them out of anger. I didn't step away and go cool off. I just lashed out and let my tongue take over. And I ended up within probably 30 minutes starting to feel like a real pile of garbage. And I had to come upstairs and I went to give her a hug, and her immediate reaction was like, nope, nope, nope. don't want it. And I grabbed her and I gave her a hug anyways. And I said, please forgive me. I'm so sorry I did that. I'm so sorry I said that. I don't know what happened. I lost control. And we worked it out. But like you said, when you allow that anger to hurt the ones you love and the ones that are closest to you, that's so bad, Drew. It's not good for anybody. And I think that there's like you said, I think we find it easier to take our anger out on people who are closest to us, maybe because we know that they're gonna forgive us. I don't know. You know what I mean? Maybe we do that because we know, hey, that's family, that's my wife, that's my kids, that's my mom. They're gonna forgive me. They'll get over it. They're gonna love me anyway. So I don't know if that makes it easier to be angry with them or take out frustration on them. What do you think?
I think that makes complete and total sense, man. I mean, I think part of it is there's no eyeballs on you when you're at home. I think it's you're in your quote quote safe space. You can be yourself. No one's gonna know. That's why, in a lot of cases, domestic, you know, abuse is so it's such a unfortunately common thing, but it's also it's I don't want to say it's an easy thing, but when you close doors, I mean, unless you're like yelling and screaming and like I live in an apartment, I guess my neighbors could hear that, but I think it's so easy to get away with that it becomes easy to do, you know.
Yeah, I
Um,
agree 100%. It's like I know that my mom isn't going to disown me because I yelled and screamed at her and lost my temper with her. You know what I mean? Whereas if I'm dating a girl, not married, but dating, and I lose my temper and yell and scream at her, she's probably never going to come around again. So I probably
yeah.
hold my tongue a lot more with somebody like that than I do with my own family or close friends. You know what I mean? Because, like I said, they're going
Well,
to forgive you, but it doesn't make it okay.
and we do the same thing with God too, dude. Like literally, we live our lives in a way that like, oh, it's okay, he'll forgive me, and
Mm.
and we do the same thing with God. And it's funny how again, we talked about it last week about how, basically if you claim to be a Christian but you're not living it, then you're kind of lying to yourself. But um I believe maybe that was James. Don't quote me. I've been going to James a lot here lately, but
Dude,
we do
I've
this.
read it. I've read it twice since you
It's so
podcast.
good.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
so good.
I never
Um,
realized how good that book is, but yes, I keep reading it over
dude,
and over again.
James and First John are both bangers, but it's so good. But again, our family and our Savior, the two things that mean the most to us, are the two things that we just let it rip against, man. And it's like, we claim to love God, but it's like, oh, well, he'll forgive me. I guess maybe it's the same thing with our family, but I think it's important to remember, and I guess we're just going to talk about what anger is tonight because we have not got even close to the notes, but I love it.
I know, and
Um,
we're like 10 minutes out from being done, but yeah, I
dude,
mean,
this one flew by I'm like literally looking at the time, like, well, but like I, th- I think it's important to remember landing the plane that uh, anger is a reaction, it's a feeling, it's an emotion, it's normal. Um, this is it, it's gonna sound crazy, but like, now obviously you don't want to leave anger unchecked, but like, you know, there's times where, we'll think to ourselves, dude, I was so mad I could have hit that person. You
mm,
know, as guys, especially not walking with the Lord, there's times where you get so mad. It's not like you would ever hit your wife, but you're like, you get so mad that you're just like, oh, like I just want to punch something, wall, whatever. Um, we as guys will punch inanimate objects, but like, we talked about the fruits of the spirit before, but like the closer you get to God, like you can pray, God give me patience, but He's gonna give you an opportunity to be patient. If you're like, "God, just remove this anger from me." Well, the the fruits of the spirit is not something that you can try to do. They are an overflow. Like the closer you get to God, that's the output and the result. The closer you get to God, you'll be more patient. The closer you get to God, you'll be slower to anger. Um, and it's perfectly normal and acceptable to be angry and filled with rage. I mean, Jesus got mad and flipped the tables at the temple,
Ooh, yeah.
like it's acceptable and understandable to be angry. It's a reaction, it's emotion. How you control and deal with that anger is your fruit, and it's the evidence of your walk. But when you get angry and like, let's say you get angry and you can't control it, and let's say you do something that like with you and your sister, you do something that, I'll give you another example. One night I was so, and I don't remember what was going on, but money, work, there was just 10 things at once. And I remember I do this thing where, like, if my wife is going to the kitchen, I try to ask her for things, that way it's just convenient for her. But at one point, I had asked her, it was something so stupid. I asked her, like, to throw something, "Hey, will you throw this away?" or whatever, and she said, "I'll come back and get it." And I knew in that moment, I was like, "I know you're gonna forget, but it's whatever." But I didn't wanna hound her. Well, so something had happened, I was just frustrated, there's so much going on in my life. And I was walking around, I was getting ready for bed. Well, I think it was like a plate or something, maybe a paper plate with something I was eating or something. Well, everyone had went upstairs. I came back in, I seen that plate, and in frustration, I reacted with anger. And I seen that plate and I said, "Dadgummit, I told you to, I asked you to throw that away." And I just said it to myself out loud. Well, I hear dun, 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 dun. She starts coming down the stairs and she's like, "What? Are you serious? What is your problem?" And I just looked at her and I got mad and I walked off, and she's like, "What is your problem?" And I just didn't say anything, because in that moment I was thinking, "You are so stupid. You are such an idiot." And I was embarrassed and I was flustered and there's so many emotions again. Water was boiling. There was no clarity because I couldn't reflect. And I just and she was like, I forgot what she said, but she went back upstairs and she was mad and she shot me a text again. She wanted to communicate. I didn't. I sat down. I thought about it for a minute and I shot her a text back later and I said, "Look, I'm not saying what I did was right, because it wasn't, but I'm so flustered and frustrated. Work is a nightmare. Our money is a nightmare. This, all of these things are going on in my life. And I know it's so stupid, but like, I was just mad because you said you're going to do it. You're going to come back and do it. You didn't. Now I had to go throw it away." And I said, "Again, I'm not saying what I did was right, because it wasn't." But I said, "But that was an angry reaction, and to be honest with you, I didn't think you could even hear me. I didn't know she was sitting at the top of the steps."
Mhm.
And I said, "I didn't even know you could hear me. I was just venting. I was frustrating." She's like, and again, women, I'm not saying we're smart, but she's like, "Yeah, but that's so dumb." I was like, I agree with you. You're right. That's fair. And one phrase here lately that's really not saved, but made my marriage better, is if you just say, "Look, that's fair," squashes so much stuff. And I told her, I was like, "Again, the way I reacted was wrong. I'm not saying it was right, but that was just a reaction. It was a flustered, frustrated reaction that I thought no one could hear in that moment. And it shouldn't happen." And so we talked it through and it was good. But anger is a normal and acceptable reaction. How you control it and how you channel it is an example of your fruit. But when you lose control, when you react negatively, how you reconcile it is your witness.
Mhm.
And in those moments, when we do something stupid, when we get angry, when we say things we shouldn't mean, when we hit something, an inanimate object that had nothing to do with anything, how I react, and how I reconcile that reaction is my witness. So when we do something stupid as a Christian, even though it's normal to be mad, even though it's normal to feel that way, even though it's explainable and understandable to react, how I reconcile that is my witness. And if I don't go back to the people that I wronged and say, dude, look, here's the deal. I'm human. I'm whatever. I shouldn't have done that. I'm sorry. Please forget. If I don't do that, then I'm hurting my witness. And so often we as Christians are labeled by our worst moments. And
Mhm.
it is terrible and unfortunate, but it's also just the truth. And so I think it's great that you went back and tried to reconcile that you know, and I think it shows growth. And in those moments, I think that that's where our witness happens.
Oh, dude, absolutely. I can tell you honestly, 3 years ago 3 years ago, I would have let my pride take over. I
Mhm.
never would have come upstairs. I never would have put my arms around her and said, "Look, that was my bad. I'm sorry. You had nothing to do with that. Please forgive me. I don't want the rest of your time here with me on the island to be awkward, because we're mad at each other." 3 years ago, I'd have said, "Whatever. It is what it is. I'm walking outside. I'm gonna go do my thing. I'm gonna go hang out in the man cave. I would have never humbled myself enough because I would have allowed my pride to get to me. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
pride is a bad thing when mixed with anger. It's a really bad thing. Dude, we're starting to run out of time here, but
Yeah,
I
no,
want I want to get
yeah,
into next episode. Man, this might be a three-parter. I don't know. But the
yeah.
next episode I want to get into, so y'all listening, tune in again. Is there a good anger and is there a bad anger? And we'll get into that. Whether you think there is a time to be angry and it's justified and it's okay, and there's times you shouldn't be angry and it's not justified because there's some scripture that backs that up.
Yeah, send us some questions, comments, whatever. I think this is something we all deal with. But yeah, um, looking at the
And
notes.
ladies, don't take this the wrong way. We are not saying y'all don't get angry. We know you do. Trust me.
Yeah.
I've had my wife's cell phone fly over the top of my head and hit the wall. I mean,
Mhm.
we know y'all get
Thank
angry.
goodness
So
she's got bad
yeah.
aim.
Oh, dude, yeah. No, it would have been a KO. Absolute KO.
But,
But yeah, ladies, we want you to keep listening to this. This isn't just for the men. I think it might give the ladies some insight as to how us men think and how we react to our anger.
yeah,
And
and again,
ladies,
if you're listening, by all means, give us some feedback, some comments. We would love to share it.
yeah, ladies, give us some comments, email us, whatever you need to do, and let us know where you stand on this anger thing. Let us know how you all deal with anger because nobody knows better than you. Drew and I are a couple guys. We can guess and we can say what we've seen, but to know what's going on inside ladies and women when they get angry, I would be interested to know. Heck, I might even
Yeah,
talk to my wife about it tomorrow.
yeah. Um, get it. So, just preview of the notes that we didn't get to that we're going to cover over the next 2 to 6 episodes is the impact of anger and the ripple effect that it causes,
Hmm.
biblical examples of anger as well as consequences, how sinful anger just drives a wedge between us and God, practical ways to manage anger, prayerful reflection, and then biblical. So we got practical ways to resolve anger, and then biblical ways to resolve anger. Uh, so we got a lot of good stuff we're going to talk about. This might be a three-parter. I don't know. We would love to get y'all's interaction, questions, comments, things that helps you when you're angry, maybe Bible verses, whatever you got. I would love to see what you guys come up with. But yeah, I guess like we'll land this plane, and we're right at an hour too, which is nice.
Yeah, dude. Well,
Yeah.
I think that from now on, anybody who doesn't interact should be charged admission.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
No, you guys, seriously, listeners, please. I know it's one thing to listen to the podcast for an hour, and then it takes more time out of your day to submit questions or email us or whatever. But man, we'd really love to hear from you. Really, I mean, we that would hit deep for me is to hear from
Yeah,
more people.
if you have something you want us to cover, or you want to just give us an attaboy or whatever it is, we would love to hear it. So definitely thoughts and prayers out to California, China, as well as Portugal because of the fires. Prayers for Chris and his wife's move. Prayers for financial burdens. Hopefully, everybody's 2025 is going to be awesome. Any closing remarks, thoughts, reflections?
I'm tired.
Yeah, I'm tired as well. I'll I'll do just kind of a quick prayer, and and like I said, we'll and then if you have anything else you want to throw in, we'll throw it in. But God, I just want to say thank you so much for everything that you do that we don't notice. Thank you for um, giving me and Chris a platform, and for people being willing to listen and tune in every single week. Thank you for the ones that have sent comments. Thank you for the people that's reflected, that's told anybody about this podcast. We're so grateful. We're so blessed to be able to use any kind of platform to be able to spread your word, your glory, your grace, to talk about Jesus and impact people in a positive way. Um, and we don't know what the reach is going to be from this. I mean, someone could be listening to this 5 years after it drops. We don't know, but we know that it's all for your glory. Me and Chris have absolutely nothing to do with this. All we're trying to do is just be vessels. And I just pray for each and every person that's listening to this. If they're going through a silent struggle, if they're going through a trial and tribulation, that they look towards you. If they're thinking about giving up, God, I pray that you point them in our direction so we can support them. And I just pray that they get just a quarter of an ounce of a blessing that we get out of this every week, God. And I just pray that you work in their lives, you put your hand over their lives. I pray that no spirit but your Holy Spirit is able to work in their lives, whatever they got going on. I pray that you put your hand over it and you rectify that in any way, shape, or form, however you can. And I just pray that we love you, focus on you, and we remain humble and give you praise for the blessings, and we don't blame you for the downfalls. And it is in your heavenly name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, brother. That was amazing.
I have such a heart for the people who listen to this. Well, both of us do, but people that listen to this, people that are going to listen to this, it's a burden to get on here and be vulnerable and risk ridicule or people making fun of us and stuff. And I just really genuinely, if we are the only Jesus that people hear, I just hope and pray that we do even remotely good enough of a job that he's able to work.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's that was the whole idea behind the podcast. That was the whole idea you and I talked about is, Jesus left the 99 for the one. You know what I mean? And if we get just one person that this changes their life or turns them around to where they start following Christ, man, we've done a good job. And I hope that's the truth. And I hope that the followers of Christ out there, followers of Jesus and believers in God, I hope that those people who are listening to this podcast, I hope it nurtures them and I hope it helps them understand as well. It's all we can hope for.
Yeah, like may God give you courage to talk to the person in the cubicle next to you, the gas station you go to every day. If we can give you any encouragement, just talk to one person about Jesus every week. And you don't have to know your Bible front to back. You just have to love the Lord and connect with people and just open up conversations. And don't be afraid to say, I'm not real sure about that. I'll look into that and get back to you. But just talk to people about Jesus. You don't have to be the best example. You just have to be willing to be used, you know.
Exactly. Exactly.
So that is all that I have. I am Drew,
And I am Chris.
and this has been the Unreligious Podcast. Y'all take it easy. Come back now, you hear?
Come on back now, you hear?